Hello and welcome to the second Net Profit podcast featuring me, Dar, and
me, Niall.
Welcome back for anyone who's heard the first one, which is probably not a lot of people.
Zero, I imagine.
Probably zero people. So, for today we're going to look back on the Shanghai Masters, which we covered in our first podcast. We're going to talk briefly about the two 500 events in Vienna and Basel, and then we're going to preview, most importantly, the Paris Masters. And obviously, throughout, we're going to be talking about our bets, the bets that we were successful in, and the bets that we're predicting to be hopefully successful in going forward. Yeah. So, Niall, where do we start? What's new since the last podcast? Maybe that's where to
start. First, what's new with the netprofitbets.com?
Hang on a minute. Is that what website is that?
We have a new landing site webpage. You don't need to remember our YouTube channel, our Twitter page, or fucking Facebook. Just straight into .com. Netprofitbets.com. You can find everything you need there.
Can you?
You can even find an application form to give us abuse. A contact form there. Unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
So netprofitbets.com or info@netprofitbets.com.
A lovely, well-crafted website now.
It does the job.
It does the job.
It's nothing fancy, but it does the job.
You can go on there. You can follow our Net Profit Bets Twitter page right off the page.
Right off the front page.
You can read down through so you don't need to listen. We don't need to reference back to our first podcast anymore because all the info is there, isn't it?
We even have a brief explanation of our system, which is it's better to put it down in text so you can read over it rather than just blabbering on about it and missing points that are important.
Absolutely. There's a link directly which will have our latest and greatest podcast on, so you can listen to YouTube right from there.
And we'll also have a bit of a blog page which you might eventually start putting some articles up on.
When we figure out what we're going to use it for, it's there anyway. There's a space for it in the meantime. And
there's space for us to ramble on.
There is. And as you said, people can feel free to contact the show for either just to give us a bit of abuse, give us their thoughts, or maybe even request a little shout out on the podcast.
Or any tennis tips, we'll take those.
Not that we need. No, we'd be quite happy to interact with anyone who's half interested in doing so with us.
Which would be quite a surprise, but anyway,
it would be
cracking on
a little bit. Maybe will we cover the first of the two?
So
Shanghai Masters
we left
first.
off last podcast right before, literally a few hours before the Shanghai Masters kicked off.
We did.
We predicted like everybody else on the whole planet that Djokovic would do the job, and he did.
He did do the job.
He beat Tsonga in the final 6-2, 6-4.
Yep.
After having beaten Klizin, Lopez, Tomic, and Murray, he didn't drop a single set.
Can't really do it any better than that.
Yeah, I have to. He's
a bit like our bets during he didn't drop a single set either, so we've got something in common with Djokovic there.
That's true. He's in Asia this season. He's 17-0. He's won 17 matches. He's dropped no matches. And the sets over the last season, which when I say season, is basically the two Shanghai Masters and the two Beijing ATP 500s. He's 38 sets to 1. He's dropped one set in the last year in Asia.
Who was the lucky opponent?
I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody around about rank 75-ish. I haven't got the name.
So in other words, he was a little bit tired and probably just like, you can have this one.
Have this one.
Because I'm not...
Give the lad a bit of confidence boost.
Absolutely.
But he's incredibly dominant in Asia. Apparently now they worship him over there as a god, basically. Whereas, over here, Djokovic can be seen as a bit of a villain.
Yeah,
he's the one that the crowd like to.
No one likes someone who wins every game.
So we'll see how that goes now in the next year or two, whether he'll actually finally start getting the kind of love that likes of Federer and Murray and Nadal get.
Yeah,
because he's worshipped in Asia. But anyway, he destroyed Shanghai. We did have a few tips for Shanghai.
We did. Some we bet on and some we didn't.
Some we bet on, some we didn't. Some were checklist passes, which we did bet on in real life, and some of them were just kind of general, almost passes, matches to watch, basically.
Yeah. We said people may want to make a few quid, maybe just a few little teasers, but not games that we'd be saying to bet main account on, which is...
I guess the main one there we had was a 1.43 bet on Klizin to beat Zhang.
We kind of said it was basically it's right next to a checklist pass. It's not one we're going to bet
close
on, but it's one that it should be a handy enough win, and it was. It was a handy enough. Well, the first set he had a bit of a game, but the second set it was a demolition, really. 6-2 second set after winning on the TB. 10-8 on the TB.
Yeah.
So
we also had Cilic to beat Wu, which is a bit of a we call that an absolute banker. It wasn't quite as clear cut as you thought it might be, but Cilic still came through in the end.
He came through. It was at one point it looked like, certainly after the first set, there might have been an upset, and then he had a very poor start to the second set as well. It looked like Wu was going to do the damage, but he turned it around pretty quickly, and it was a very, very close third set, and it ended up going to tie break. And at one point, it looked, before it was going to the tie break, it was actually, was it Wu was serving I think Cilic was serving to stay in the game. I think.
Yeah, it was a massive surprise to me that was as close as that. I mean, Wu
It was match point at one point to Wu, I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
He'd never beaten a top 100 player up to that point. He still hasn't, but he's pretty damn close. So that was a bit of a surprise. Not that we didn't have money on that one. That was just one of the. It didn't pass the checklist. Well, it didn't get to the checklist stage.
No, it would never have made the checklist based on the odds that there were.
The odds are
offered.
1.05, which are like mental to be putting on a player like Cilic. But
if you were someone who literally went for absolute, I know we look for banker bets as we say, but if you're the type of person who does like to bet on literally stone cold bankers, as in they bet on Federer, they bet on Djokovic. This would have been a game they would have highlighted as a guaranteed win, and I said it was a fairly that there was some very nervous
money
punters
lost.
about. I'd say
well, not lost, but
yeah,
potentially lost there, very close. And then we also had Mayer to beat Bay, which is one we did actually go for.
That was our first tip.
Yeah, 1.1.
The very first tip.
Our absolute minimum odds we'll go for, and that did a job. That had 2 low flags, and what was that? What was actually the final result in that?
It was 6-0, 6-1.
There you go. There's the checklist destroying things.
Not only does he not drop a set, but he only loses one game in the whole match. So I mean, that's incredible, really. That was obviously a very solid game, and we went on then to predict further 2 games. The first,
which you would have seen on our Twitter feed. This would have been after the podcast.
It would have been after the podcast. Yeah. It was David Goffin from Belgium.
My old favourite.
He
Love
was
a bit of Goffin.
Yeah. He was playing against Go Suda, one of the qualifiers from Japan. And again, a 6-4, 6-2. Very comfortable win for Goffin as well. And the third one, which that Goffin game was also in the same round. It was in the first round of the tournament. The second round of the tournament, we had one bet, which was Murray against Steve Johnson.
Yeah.
So that was another... Actually, hang on a minute. Sorry, we did drop. Sorry, the Murray game was actually was it 4-6, 6-1, 7-6. That was when there was a set drop there.
No, we didn't. No, I don't think so. No, there was no drop. No.
Oh, sorry, it wasn't. It was that was Steve Johnson's first. It's very difficult.
The checklist doesn't drop sets, Darren. It just doesn't do it.
Of course, 6-2, 6-4 even.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
So when we had in to wrap it up, we had 5 tips. 3 of which we went for ourselves on the checklist, which you could have had as well if you followed us on Twitter.
If only people were, people were as interested in making money as us now, they would have had a few quid extra at the end of the tournament, wouldn't they? I know I did. Did you?
Certainly did.
Good stuff.
So I think that would have increased your bank by, what did we say? If you started off with
100, you'd have about 135.
Better about that. So you can't say no to 35% increase in your bank over the course of a couple of days.
If someone told me a 15-20% increase in my bank, it just depends on what you're willing to put on it. Like if you're going to start at low odds, a low stake even, fine. If you put it in a tenner, you're only going to have 30 and 50 or whatever. But like you said, if you're at 1,000 euro, you have an extra 300 euro. So
But that's where the patience and discipline of the system comes in. You can start off with a tenner as long as you see it as a seasonal betting challenge. You'll be up in a pretty high bank by the end of the year. It all builds up. It all snowballs.
Yeah, I mean the reality of it is the only one way the way to make a quick buck is pretty much by layering your bet and saying, I'm going to take 2 matches instead of, and then before you know it, you've got 3-4 matches and you're saying, I can actually hit this. And the reality of it is not dropping a single set over 4 matches in the same round it's not possible. Mm-hmm. So you do have to have a patient approach. It's really the only way you're going to be able to bet with big money.
All right. So Djokovic, Shanghai Masters, dominant. No real surprise there. Destroyed everybody that came up against him. Good job, Djokovic, as if he needs our encouragement.
No, certainly not.
Moving on, then there was 2 ATP 500s. There was the Vienna, which Ferrer won.
Beat Johnson,
which it was actually a good performance for Ferrer because he's been dogged by injury.
He has
over the whole past year. He had to miss Wimbledon and a number of tournaments. He beat Fognini and Monfils on his way to the final.
He did, and he
beat Johnson 4-6, 6-4, 7-5.
He did.
It was a good win.
It absolutely was. There was one player I thought I might just point out. Well, there was 2 one match, I suppose, was Songa lost to Rosal there in round 16, which was, by his stand, that's a poor defeat, really.
Rosal's capable of wins like that, though. He's
an aggravator.
He's an aggravator. I think you say that again.
Yeah. And one particular player I thought that was done very well. Gulbis actually got to the semi-finals there.
Yeah, he beat Isner, did he?
He beat Isner, Anderson, and Carlo. I mean, they're all big servers, like Gulbis is.
Gulbis is in a former. I think has he been top 10? I think he has.
He's certainly been around that neck of the woods, all right.
He's obviously dropped off the ranking massively in the last few months, but he's capable. It's like his ranking at the moment is very misleading.
It is.
I would not be betting against Gulbis regardless of who's playing.
Well, if he can beat players like the likes of Anderson, Karlovic, and Isner are quite happy to sort of have a game see right through, get to a tie break, and obliterate an opponent. And Gulbis was quite happy to.
Yeah.
to do the same thing.
It's important not to just check a player's current ranking. It's important to check where was he. This time 6 months ago. So I think 6 months ago he was ranked higher than Isner.
Yeah.
So you've got to take that kind of stuff into account. Yeah. Gulbis will always be capable of beating players like Isner.
Certainly in 500 events where, these lads with a Masters coming up, they're not going to kill themselves. If they see a game as, one that they don't really need to really win, to go much further in, and they see it, they're going to have to really push themselves to get there. They're the games you've got to avoid. If a player goes behind in a game in a 500, are they really going to want it that much that they're going to really push themselves as much as they would in a Masters or a Slam? Again, we talked before, players like Tomic and stuff like that, if it was a Masters or a Slam, they have this extra gear, but they don't find it in the 500 events. They don't care in a lot of them. So
no, it often depends on what's on the horizon, and we know that on the horizon is the World Tour Masters or Paris, and of course the World Tour Finals, which Ferrer will be involved in.
He will.
He was one of the last people to qualify for it. It was interesting. He withdrew from Valencia 250. He was. That's kind of it's not almost like a home tournament for him. He's won there many, many times, but he actually withdrew. I think I have a quote here from. So he withdrew with an elbow injury, which is a bit worrying because it's the exact same injury that he withdrew from Wimbledon for at the middle of this year. So here's a quote from him, right? Elbow problems are back. Great. I don't prefer to take risks, and we decided not to play Valencia. I'm sad I won't be on court. I don't know if it's my last year. Now, I don't know whether he means it's his last year at Valencia.
Competing in Valencia,
yeah. Which actually is on the way down. I was reading about the actual tournament itself.
Okay, it might lose the status.
Well, it is, definitely. It's going to be off the ATP Tour anyway.
Oh.
But what happened this year was it wasn't even in the original location. They had to move to a temporary stadium. Apparently it was a right bollock of a tournament this year.
So the tournament he knows and loves is very much dead anyway.
It was a mess. But it's interesting. I don't know if it's my last year. I wonder, does he mean... He's 33 years old now. I wonder, does that mean it's his last...
I don't. I watched a little thing on him there in the last 2 weeks, and it was words from his coach, words from him about how he's playing. It doesn't sound like he's going to be going anywhere in the next...
I was interested because himself and Gasquet were in line to qualify for the World Tour Finals. I think Gasquet had to win Basel and Paris Masters to qualify ahead of Ferrer. Obviously, a big ask.
Big ask.
So it sounds like it might have been a bit of a tactical break for Ferrer to skip Valencia, be ready for Paris if he needs to get a lot of points.
Yeah.
Just make sure he's definitely the 8th qualifier for the World Tour Finals, which he is. Actually, so the full lineup for the World Tour Finals is done now. It's going to be Djokovic, Murray, Federer, Wawrinka, Berdych, Nishikori, Nadal, and Ferrer. The usual suspects, basically.
Yeah, no real big surprises there. No. And I suppose after the season that Nishikori's had with the injuries and stuff like that, he's done well to
he'd be one of the weaker ones there, I think.
Yeah.
And of course, who knows how much Murray is going to be into the World Tour Finals with the whole shenanigans with the Davis Cup.
Yes,
but we've been over that in the last podcast, so be interesting to see.
The Basel 500 is the other final that's basically going on today. Nadal against Federer. It's the old was it Fedal? It's the big final. It's the final we've probably grown up. We've known to see over and over and over again. The two big boys battling it out, and it's great to see again. It's
a first time meeting for 2.5 years in the final.
Wow.
The last one was Rome Masters in 2013. It's been this long, a
much bigger event than the one they're competing in now as well. Must be said.
Yeah, exactly. I think this, even though it's only a 500 event, I think both players will be up for this now. It's a return to the classic head to head. It
certainly is.
So it's just an interesting stat there. Nadal's only won one indoor hardcourt tournament out of his 67 career titles. He's only ever won one indoor hardcourt.
Wow. So
this would be number 2 if he can do it against Federer. But I was surprised by that. He's only ever won one.
Yeah, you would. You never would have put it down as one.
No, one single indoor title. Pretty crazy. So he came through Rosol, very close against him. He was in tiebreak in the third set. Dimitrov, Cilic, and Gasquet.
Good wins there, given that Gasquet would have wanted it. Cilic
Gasquet, I imagine, was motivated to try and get into that World Tour Finals, but it was a big ask to win a 500 and then a Masters the next week. Federer's path was Kukushkin, Kohlschreiber, Goffin, and Sock. He breezed through.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost without you didn't hear a peep out of him really till he got to the final.
Yeah, he beat Sock in 63 minutes, I think. So he breezed through very easy. Nadal's 21-10 against Federer. This is the first time playing in Switzerland. So yeah, it's I think Federer obviously the firm favourite there, but Nadal's on a bit of form. I know you quite fancy Nadal last couple of weeks.
What I was going to say was it's an interesting one that we find ourselves sitting down discussing another Masters coming up, and literally on the morning that we're sitting down here discussing it, Nadal's in another final. And it's the only common tangent between the two is Nadal's in the final. Is he going to get beaten in both finals though by a stretch?
There's no Djokovic, there's no Murray, there's no one else there other really than Federer to challenge.
That's true. That is true. But it's good to see it. At the same time, it's good to see he's had a good age and swing. He's gotten to finals, and he has. It's a return to a certain amount of consistency. It's a return to consistency, if nothing else. He's got to be winning tennis matches. Nadal's not the kind of player who's going to show up at a tournament and go out in the first round without trying. Yeah, it's just a problem when he tries and it's just not there. He just hasn't got that extra gear. That's the problem, I think.
Yeah, against Gasquet there now, it was a bit up and down. There was a lot of breaks going on. Yeah. Gasquet was 4-2 up in the first set, and then 2-love up in the second set. So, I think he's broken the first game. Yeah, every set, right. Both sets. That's not good stuff. And just a note there, a trainer was called on during the first set, or second set actually.
For Rafa.
To tape his right knee, which I think he's... could be something going on there.
The years of clay court mastery is catching up on him.
It might have just been a cautionary thing, but something to look out for maybe.
But it hasn't stopped him, really getting to the final, certainly anyway. Whether or not this resurfaces again, at a later stage in the event.
Yeah, well look, he's I think all his matches at Basel were 3-setters, except for Gasquet. So that's a good bit of tennis now before a Masters. He's going to be playing. He's in the final now on Sunday. He'll probably be playing again on Tuesday, probably. Yeah, he'll get a bye, so I presume Tuesday. It's a lot of tennis.
Might not be. If you got a bye from the first, it's probably Wednesday because
could be Wednesday.
There's normally the first one will be over to 2 days in the Masters, so it'll probably be Wednesday. It's not a lot of recovery time.
No, it's not. I mean, I'll be looking for news on Nadal's knee there on Monday. I'd say see what the crack is there.
Certainly.
But that's he's done okay. He's done well.
He has.
Federer. This is Federer's 12th Basel final, which is a record for any men's player in a single tournament. So he's kicking ass, obviously, in his home tournament.
Well, he loves it.
No surprise, really.
He's a Swiss lad, and he likes playing in Switzerland. I mean, he seems very loyal to the events. If he likes an event, he's going to be there or thereabouts. He seems to give it his all. And
Federer he's not a tanker.
No, he certainly isn't. And
I know he had that. Actually, we forgot to mention his horrendous exit from the Shanghai Masters there. Out on his first match against Albert Ramos Vinolas, ranked 70.
Yeah,
beat him 7-6, 2-6, 6-3. Vinolas had opening odds of 19.1. If you got on board that, fair play to you. And why did you email us about it?
Yeah, let us know if you actually want to. Send us a little screenshot of you putting that bet on as well.
That's probably the loss of the year.
It certainly has to be up there.
It's unbelievable. Like for Federer to lose the opening round.
That was, to be honest, that was one that alarmed me because I think it's the kind of bet that. If we were looking around for bets and the odds for Federer there were 1.1 and above, you would have to have considered it.
No, there's no way it would have been 1.1. I think he would have been 1.02. But Federer's always that kind of
That's exactly the thing. He would have been never more than even 1.03, 1.04. And that's the good thing, I suppose, with the checklist is we're looking for bankers, but at the same time, we're ruling out these kind of games where,
odds,
and
there is,
there's no value in putting
no value at all.
That.
I mean, I know we kind of go against the whole idea of value.
We do
in bets. But at the same time, there's a limit where we'll say, no, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And I mean, I think like if you've got €1,000 in your betting account and that's the amount you're ready to put on, getting £100 for literally maybe 2 hours of tennis is good. But getting, I mean, what, €30 on €1,000? I mean, that's just fucking silly, really.
Crazy.
I mean, there's no, and then to lose it would have been heartbreaking.
I mean,
all that work to get to that balance, it would have been devastating. I'm sure somebody somewhere feels that, and it's unfortunate. Like you've got to be careful as well. Like there's no value to
it's hard to find out. It's hard to find out what happened there. Like
it is.
They played once before. I think 2012. The result in Wimbledon. The result was 6-1, 6-1, 6-1 for Federer. So
that's more like what you would expect.
I mean, I presume
Vinolas would have had a much lower world ranking back then. I would have expected.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up, but I presume Vinolas is obviously more of a clay courter.
Yeah.
But then again, you got Federer on his favoured hard court. I don't know what happened there. Like, what could possibly have happened? Just an off day for Federer, something happening behind the scenes. Like, on paper, he's never losing that.
No.
So, like, from our point of view, from a checklist point of view, results like that they're worrying in one way, but at the same time, we would never even have considered that match. No. I mean, we don't even look at it twice. Like,
that's exactly.
They don't make it.
There's certain games where, for example, if we look at two players and they're both in the top 40. We'll literally disregard it instantly, and in the same way as if it's less than 1.10, it's not even going to be crossing our mind. And to be honest, it's the kind of bet that even if we're looking for a bet that's not on the checklist, we're kind of saying, well, if there's a close one, maybe them bets are never even in the spectrum of what we would look to bet on. So I think from that point of view, there's an element of safety. But like you say, when you can't explain a result, there's still a possibility of an unexplainable result that you can't make allowances for. And that's kind of what we've tried to do with the checks, is we're trying to take any possible tangible reason why a player may not lose, and we're
that's really how the checklist started. Going back over matches and finding out what was the core reason that person lost, and just
and you did a lot of research, to be honest, behind that.
But then on that match, I haven't actually looked into that Federer Vinolas match that much, but on the surface of it, I can't see a reason why that would have happened. Like,
was there any excuse made, I wonder, from... I mean, I don't know if he addressed sort of the press with any sort of, reason. I got
to say, I didn't actually read Federer's official kind of post-match interview, but I did see some comments from people online out that it could be bullshit. He's saying that Federer was coming with all types of excuses. I don't think that's true, but I can't. That's going to hearsay. I'm not going to.
There's no point speculating on that. Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, from his perspective, it was a case of next, move on. Next
maybe
tournament.
It might have been a case of just reserving his energy for the Masters,
a
where
possible
it matters.
Tank from Federer.
Oh yeah, just what I'm saying. Yeah, true.
It's unlikely.
Maybe he's getting to that stage of his career.
He's got to pick and choose the tournaments.
The legs aren't going to keep him going for a whole season.
Well, look, let's just put it this way: he's next event 500. He's in the final.
He's in the final,
and he's cruised through it. I mean, it's Djokovic-esque type performance, really, isn't it?
Oh yeah, he kind of not redeemed himself, but there's no lasting effects from that match.
No.
I'm glad to say.
Yes, but again, the amount of times you'll find us bet on Roger Federer in a tournament is...
We never bet on him.
We never have, and I don't really see, unless his world ranking state reduces to a point where you're getting the reasonable odds on him. I can't see us betting on him next year. No. Can't see us betting on the likes of Rafa, Djokovic, etc. Because by the time their odds are in our spectrum, they're already in the quarterfinals or against a player who's in the top 40. So it automatically rules out.
Yeah, once you're at that stage of a tournament, I mean, anyone can win. If you're at a quarterfinal or semi-final or indeed a final, you're playing well. So there's no point betting against
you.
We
won't
as far
be
as I'm
betting
concerned.
Against them or for them.
So that pretty much wraps up the last couple of weeks, doesn't it?
It does.
Since our last podcast.
Yes, indeed, it does.
So it's Sunday and it's pre-Paris Masters.
Let's discuss everything we can possibly... Let's put our cards on the table. What you got? What have you got?
Well, not much, because it's tricky in these, when the draw gets released.
It is.
It's getting the qualifiers in. Who's made it through the qualifying, because they're kind of bread and butter for us to have wins over, basically.
We're a little bit unfair in that we do pick on the qualifiers and we try and take not deliberately, but just sometimes you get a player who's maybe top 20 to top 40 and they're coming up against a qualifier, and it's basically our bread and butter in a lot of cases, and
we're getting those wild cards that are there just for
to make up the numbers, basically. Yeah, especially
they're always good ones to pick on.
Lucky losers, wild cards. The what do you say? The retained the odds. Retained ranking status and stuff. They're all players who we would tend to look to bet against if at all possible. Going through that the list of games, it's not the kindest looking first round of games.
No, from our point of view, there's nothing standing out for a round one bet. Unfortunately, it'll. Tonight, in a few hours' time, when the qualifiers are set, there might be one or two, but
with the information we have now, that we don't know the qualifiers, I might just highlight. I was looking through the games there. Karlovic is coming up in the first round against a qualifier. Dimitrov is coming up against a qualifier, and then beyond that, there's two qualifiers playing in the same group. They'll go in. The winner will go on to play against John Isner, because John Isner has a bye in the first round. So it's Isner in the second round against one of two qualifiers who are unconfirmed as of now.
That's a potential, Isner.
I think Isner's a solid, kind of around rank 20 type player.
That's definitely one I'll be looking at when the qualifiers get announced. Who gets through to him?
Probably ranked a little bit higher than he probably. For me, he's a typical rank 20 player, between 15 to 20. Isner, I think he's 13 seed in this tournament. And I think that's one I'll definitely be looking at with keen interest, because we can basically run a checklist on what the two qualifiers pretty much instantly once we know who the two of them are, and we'll be rooting for the one that we want to pass, that passes the checklist. But I think there's a possibility there, just looking further down as well. Nicholas Mahut is playing against a qualifier. You'd expect Mahut to come through there.
He will do.
And whoever wins that game, Mahut against the qualifier, will go play against David Goffin. Potential bet there, I would have thought as well.
Yeah, possibly.
He's been good to us this season.
He has, it depends now. I'd love nothing more than the qualifier to beat Mahut, and then for Goffin to have it easy breezy into the next round. But let's talk about the the bracket then.
Okay.
Do you want to? We've put in our predictions for who's going to.
We've decided to try this. Niall does the predictions. I do my predictions, and we sort of.
What's the best way to do it? Do you want to work from the back or from the final backwards, or do you want to?
Yeah, maybe work from the final backwards because we can kind of see where it all's gone wrong.
Where it all goes off.
Yeah. So
off the
who have you got in the final?
In the final, I have Djokovic and Murray.
Interesting. I've got a Djokovic Federer final.
Djokovic Federer. Okay, well then that's interesting. We'll say. Did you have Murray Federer? Who would you have in the semis?
I have Murray Federer in the semis.
Okay, so
we've come up with different winners for that game.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then on the other semi-final side, you have Djokovic against who?
Nadal.
Now you see, I had Wawrinka to go past Nadal.
I had a feeling. I actually had a feeling we differ on that one. All right. So interesting. We've got two different semi-finals, but the same winner.
Yeah, same winner. So let me tell you my path for Djokovic.
Okay.
I have Djokovic beating Kohlschreiber once he gets past Bellucci.
Yeah.
I have Djokovic to beat Simone.
Okay.
I have Djokovic to beat Berdych.
Yeah.
Djokovic to beat Wawrinka, and then Djokovic in the final to win.
I've basically got the exact same route, to be honest. It's Monfils, Simon gets beaten by Djokovic. Berdych goes through to be beaten in the quarterfinals, and then you've obviously decided that. Interesting to know. Who have you gone with to play against Wawrinka in the round before Nadal?
Wawrinka and Sock.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I think Sock's been played well recently. I think Wawrinka would have too much experience. I have Anderson against Nadal now. I think Nadal could have problems with even Anderson. I just don't fancy him to get too deep in this tournament.
Well,
and saying that now, I know he's in a final there. A lot depends on that knee. I'm gonna be keeping an eye on his knee.
It does. Who have you got in the Thiem Manarino game? Do you fancy? I said Thiem myself. Thiem.
Yeah, Thiem for me as well.
Yeah.
We actually put that through the checklist for the crack. And it's a bit of a 50-50 match, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I really wouldn't like to have to call that one.
No.
I think Thiem, but on another day, Manarino sometimes can be very hard he can be very difficult to opponent, but you just don't know what Manarino's going to show up in certain games.
Manarino, when a heavy favourite, is so solid.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like I said to you before, when I see him against somebody at 1.2, that's the kind of stuff I'm after.
Bread and butter,
he's so solid. I know when I look through his history, he's going to be pretty good at those kind of odds.
Yeah.
So let's see what you have then for the other side of the bracket.
Yeah.
You said Federer in the final. So read me out what's Federer's path to the final for you?
Federer's path to the final. Where does he start? Okay, so it's Federer against Seppi. He beats Seppi. He beats Isner. He beats David Ferrer, and he beats Murray for me.
Okay, so I'm slightly different. Like obviously I haven't beaten Isner. I have Ferrer dropping out pretty early. I have Vesely beating Ferrer.
Oh,
I think Ferrer. He's made it now to the World Tour Finals.
That could be him putting his feet up.
Yeah, I think if it's true about what he's saying about his elbow, he's going to want to have a bit of a rest here now before that. I don't think Ferrer is going to be getting that deep. I think if not Vesely, then Cilic in the next round is going to take Ferrer. I don't see him getting past that kind of stage.
But the only thing Ferrer potentially might be thinking to himself, he's going to go to the World Tour Finals. He doesn't want to go in and just crash out. He might want to see how he can put it to his pace, because ultimately, if the elbow's giving him a bit of grief, it's going to cause him a bit of grief in the World Tour Finals as well. And I'd imagine he wants to go in there with a bit of, a few solid tournaments behind him. So I actually went with Cilic was beaten by Nadal, and I think the way Nadal is playing, if Nadal can beat Cilic, I expect Ferrer to, and I just didn't think Vesely was going to have enough. Ferrer, he's a fighter.
Oh, he is. I love Ferrer. He's one of my favorite players.
He's one of your favorite
dogged,
players.
Absolute dogged. But I think he's going to want to keep something in the tank for the World Tour Finals. He said himself with the elbow injury. I think he's had his good hardcore tournament before the World Tour Finals, which was the not Valencia, Vienna.
Yeah.
I mean, he won that. That was a great win from him. I think he's done enough there. He's done enough to book his place in the finals.
Getting there. Well, absolutely, he's earned his place there. I'd like to see him go well there.
I'd like to see him go well too, but I don't think he can. So for me, Vesely gets the better from there.
Okay.
I think Cilic beats Vesely, and then Cilic Federer, and then Federer beats Murray into the final.
Down the other end, I sort of saw Nishikori going to beating Shardy, having a tough battle against Gasquet.
Exactly
Gasquet
right.
knocking him out.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have as well. Yeah.
So pretty much, I'd say we're the same. Verdasco Murray goes through, and Goffin Goffin goes through. It's kind of what I.
Yeah, I think I've pretty much exactly what you have there as well. Yeah. Now, I think Djokovic has the easiest route. Again, I mean, he does. He had a very favourable route in the Masters in Asia, was it Shanghai or Beijing? I always get them mixed up.
Shanghai, yeah.
Shanghai. Are you the same here? I mean, he's going against Cole Screever in his first match. Probably Simone in the next match, which would probably be his hardest match there.
There's an all French battle there. Paris Monfils goes to plays against Simon, so there's a lot of French action going on.
Passionate game there.
Yeah, in Paris.
Potentially he's against Berdych or Tsonga, which I think Djokovic is going to destroy either of those.
Yeah.
And then Djokovic will have him down for Wawrinka or Nadal. You said I think he's going to breeze past either of those, Wawrinka or Nadal.
I think either or as well. Yeah.
So I think he's a pretty easy route in there.
Being the first seed, well, from what we've seen, he's had that a few times now. He's had very, very direct routes to the final without coming up against too many players to cause him problems.
Yeah, you actually made me question now my Murray in the final, because looking at his route, it's probably one of the harder ones, and he has the Davis Cup on his mind.
Yeah,
because I have him beating Goffin, then beating Gasquet. Gasquet's obviously on form at the moment.
Well, so do I. I mean, I haven't gone all the way. I felt Federer I just felt another Federer Djokovic final was what we were going to see. But I think ultimately the fact that we're both saying Djokovic just shows you the kind of. Everybody knows it.
No prizes for choosing Djokovic in this one or any tournament for that.
And I'd love to be able to say I'm looking forward to the tournament we're talking about, where maybe Djokovic. I'm not saying I'm wishing he gets injured, because obviously if it's a big tournament, Djokovic is going to be there. But I'm looking forward to the tournament where we take Djokovic out because he's actually not going to be available to play, and we can talk about potential other winners then, because I think that really opens up an awful lot of doors.
It's interesting. I know we don't follow the women's tournament other than just to watch it on TV the odd time there.
Stick it on.
But the Singapore, I think it's
Singapore is on it.
Yeah, I'm not too clued in with women's tennis, but
it's the final tour.
It's basically their version of the World Tour Finals.
It is,
yeah. It's interesting that Serena Williams obviously decided not to turn up on it. So this kind of the 8 players that are there at the moment. It's kind of like a preview of the future of women's tennis when Serena retires.
True.
It's kind of interesting to see something like that with Djokovic as well. If he wasn't in this
available
tournament,
to play
it will be much more open. It will be, but at the same time, hey, he's done well. He deserves to be. He deserves to be the absolute favorite.
He does, and I think as well, the kind of we talked about motivation before, and we questioned certain players' motivation, and then again, one of the reasons why we bet or don't bet on players. One of the big reasons comes down to motivation, because they can pass the checklist, but if we don't feel like there was a particular bet I remember where we had Dimitrov passing about 2 months ago, and we decided not to bet because we just questioned his motivation for the tournament. He did
He's
win
always
the game
a liability.
2-0, but yeah, and I just think if Djokovic wasn't playing, imagine the kind of motivation players are going to have, because they're going to feel that this is a winnable tournament for them, especially the top 20 players, like the likes of your Berdych, your Wawrinkas. These kind of players are going to think straight away, there's a potential tournament winner.
Yeah, well, I think points are important now for Murray. He's in a real sticky position now with the Davis Cup. He'll want to maintain that number 2 ranking coming into the Australian Open. That means he's on the opposite end of the draw. Yeah, the same way here with in this Masters, he's on the opposite end of the draw for getting to the final. That's why it massively increases his chances of getting to the final. He'll want that in the Australian Open as well. If he's number 2, he's on the opposite side of the draw to Djokovic, and it massively increases his chances of winning another slam. So
absolutely.
He'll want to do well here, and he'll want Federer to not do well, put it that way. So yeah, that semi-final between Federer and Murray, that's going to be an interesting one if it happens. Yeah. So I think we'll wrap this one up. I think the next podcast will probably just go like an end of year wrap up.
We might just go through, I suppose, a really brief overview of the season and maybe look at the changes in position in world rankings, and we'll look at our own bets. We might just give a flavour of what we've had in the last, say, June to December of bets, and we'll just close up and maybe give people an idea what to expect for next season.
And we'll kick it all off for realsies for the Australian Open.
Absolutely, looking forward to that.
So not too many tips for the Paris Masters today. Nope. It's a little bit early from the draw.
By the time this goes up though online, the reality of it is we probably could have a bet up there potentially, or we'll be waiting on something to. The point is, keep an eye on the Twitter. That's where you're going to get the latest bets. So keep an eye on Twitter. You can get it at netprofitbets.com. Get all our stuff there. Netprofitbets.com. Everything is there. Netprofitbets.com.
Get your ass there. Yeah.
There's no reason not to at this stage. Look, it's the last tournament of the season. We don't know how many bets there's going to be, but there's no better time to trial out our system than right now. What are you waiting for?
Get on board.
What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for? Do it right now.
We're making money. Why don't you make money too?
Whip out that card.
Absolutely. Give the bookies your money. But remember, in the long run, you're going to be taking far more off them than you've given them to begin with. So.
Damn right. That's the plan.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you probably near Christmas for a bit of a roundup.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. See you then.
See you then.
See you now. Bye.